What's going on, guys? Austin Sawyer here, bringing you the top 20 people I'm most excited to see back for Survivor Game Changers. I'm super excited for the season, and I've been dying to talk about it. So hopefully this video holds you over until March the 8th. And talking about it will hold me over, so without further ado, let's get into the list. I'm just gonna group number 20 and number 19 together because basically nobody cares about these two. Ciara Dawn Thomas and Haley Ford, both from Survivor Worlds Apart, which was a very controversial season, one of my least favorites, honestly. I did not enjoy that season, but there's really not much to say about Haley and Ciara, besides they have sort of Kelly Wentworth upside, meaning that nobody really knows anything about them, and they shouldn't really be on the cast, so hopefully they can impress us like Kelly did, and be a pleasant surprise on this season, but I'm not counting on it. Number 18, Brad Culpepper. I'm actually pretty excited to see Brad Culpepper on this cast because he was very entertaining to watch in Survivor Blood vs. Water. You can hate Brad, and I'm not the biggest Brad Culpepper fan in the world, but honestly, he made that pre-merge way better than it would have been without him. So it's going to be very interesting to see what he learned from his last time and if he can improve upon his game, because really you can't do much worse. But he did have a pretty solid alliance going, and I have a feeling that an all-male alliance is going to happen this season, so maybe Brad isn't in such a bad spot overall. We're just going to have to see. Number 17, Sarah. Sarah's another one who was actually playing a decent game until she made a pretty big flub up. She wasn't flexible, and that's what you have to be in Survivor. She wouldn't go with what Cass wanted to do, and that caused Cass to flip on her and vote her out. So Sarah needs to learn to be a little bit more flexible, and she shouldn't hold a grudge against Tony, which I know she's going to kind of, and I understand that she will, but hopefully she's learned from her mistakes and she can make it just a little further this time. Number 16, Troyan. My favorite thing about Troyan is he has so much passion for the game. Troyan wants it, and that's what I want in a Survivor. When his back was against the wall, he went crazy. Now, of course, he was going up against the greatest of all time, Kim Spradlin, so he didn't really have much of a chance, but he sure went out swinging, and that's what I like to see. So, you know, although I'm not too excited to see Troyan back, which is why he's near the bottom of the list, I'm glad that he's back because losing that second chance poll, you can tell that he was devastated. So I'm really glad to see him, and I hope he does well. Number 15, Kaleb. Kaleb's evacuation was probably the scariest thing we've ever seen on Survivor. It was absolutely insane, and we knew he was coming back from the second he was evacuated because it put that little thing on the screen saying that Kaleb hopes to play again. So it's not very unexpected that he's back, but he was actually doing a lot better on Survivor than he was on Big Brother, in my opinion. Of course, Survivor is an edited show, so they might have just been editing him up so the medical evacuation would be more impactful on the audience, but from what I saw, he was being very flexible and he was getting along with everyone, especially Ty, who's also on this cast, so maybe he can hook back up with Ty and they can make a long run in this game. I don't think Kaleb's going anywhere anytime soon, and I really think he's going to do well. Number 14, Andrea. I thought Andrea had a very good shot in Survivor Caramoan when I was first looking at the cast, but she ended up playing a little bit too hard, and she did make it very far, don't get me wrong, but she could have won had she just not been playing so hard, and that would be the advice if I could talk to Andrea before she went out there. I would have just said, put on the brakes a little bit, let the Brad Culpeppers of the world do all of the dirty work, and then towards the end of the game, when you're still there because you're not a big threat, then you can start making your big moves and take this thing home. Hopefully Andrea has learned from her mistakes, but I really don't think she has much of a chance to win, but I hope she proves me wrong. Number 13, Zeke. Who doesn't love Zeke? Zeke is one of the best characters that we've had in a long time on Survivor. I actually consider this a very low spot for Zeke, and the reason that I have Zeke so low is because I found myself rooting for more of the David side of things, which, don't get me wrong, I love Zeke and I'm so glad that he's back. Unfortunately, Zeke does have the obstacle to get over that nobody on this season knows who he is. Same goes for Mikayla, so it's going to be a very hard road to convince people like JT that he's not another Russell Hantz. And plus, Malcolm has been in that position before, where he has also been the person who nobody knows, and Malcolm thinks pretty highly of himself. So Zeke and Mikayla might end up being big targets, but I hope not because I love them both. Number 12, Ty. Ty is literally one of the most unique characters that we've had on the show ever. And the reason Ty is at number 12 and not just a little bit higher was in the beginning of Survivor Go Wrong, I thought Ty was going to be one of my favorite players of all time. But towards like the end of the season, Ty began falling off for me. I think it was the same for the rest of the audience too, from what I've seen on social media. People weren't loving him towards the end how they were in the beginning. People were rooting more for Aubrey, and as was I, so hopefully Ty can come back, not get as much into the immunity idol hunting and the betrayals, and maybe just be the likable Ty that we love to watch. And I think he'll go very far, because who's going to take out Ty? I know I wouldn't. Number 10, Ciara Easton. I'm very excited to see Ciara Easton back because she wants to make big moves. But that's one thing that actually kind of annoyed me about her in Survivor Cambodia. She kept preaching to people to make big moves, but sometimes making the big move isn't the best move, and I hope Ciara knows that, especially after her last season, because I get it, she voted her mom out. Did you hear, by the way, Jeff Probst really wants us to know that. But going to Raw sort of worked out for her. I mean, she didn't go home. Of course, Katie did go home, but she was beloved for it, especially by Jeff Probst at the finale. So I think she went into the second chances thinking, if I make big moves, people are going to love me. But that is not how you win this game. You have to time your moves out perfectly in order for them to be actually effective. I hope Ciara learned this from her last game, and if she didn't, she's probably going to go out in about the same spot. Number 10, Debbie. I loved Debbie in Survivor Go Wrong. I know she got on a lot of people's nerves. She didn't get on my nerves. I was pulling for Debbie all the way that season. If I could have picked one person, I would have picked Debbie. Now, I don't know if that's a hot take or not, but I just loved everything about her. She was so bizarre, such a good character. I loved everything, and I hope she can tone some of that quirkiness down through her fellow castaways, but also bring it to us in her confessionals, because I need more of that in my life. I think it was the episode that they voted out Liz, where Debbie completely shines. That was my favorite Debbie episode of the season. She took charge and I loved it, and I hope to see more of that in Survivor Game Changers. Number 9, Mikayla. Mikayla was an absolute challenge beast in her season, and she went out so prematurely. She was so good in the challenges and in the confessional. She is all around one of the most entertaining people to watch that is on this cast. I was so sad to see her go, but I am so happy that she is on this cast. But she has that obstacle, like Zeke, to overcome. Nobody knows who she is, and when they see this intimidating woman making all of these snarky facial expressions, which we love, but I don't think the other castaways will feel very comfortable when she's doing that. And we saw how smart she is. That's why Jay voted her out. So I think Mikayla has a real shot if she can just change her game up a little bit. Number 8, Jeff Varner. I was the saddest that I have been about Survivor in a very long time when Jeff Varner was voted out of Survivor Cambodia, because I loved him. I was pulling for him all the way. Like in that season, if I could have picked one person, I would have picked Jeff Varner, because I was loving every second of it. Love him or hate him, he was entertaining as heck in that first part of Survivor Cambodia. He has so much passion, which I love, but he said in his preseason interviews that he's going to try and tone down the gaming a little bit. So hopefully, if his tribe doesn't lose many challenges, he can go really far in this game, and I would love to see it. Number 7, Aubrey, the little winner that never was. People say that Aubrey should have won Survivor Go Wrong, but the fact of the matter is Aubrey didn't win Survivor Go Wrong. Michelle did. So Aubrey needs to go and prove to herself and us that she can actually win the game. I think she can. I think Aubrey has one of the best chances on this cast. She was absolutely incredible in Survivor Go Wrong, and I feel really good about her chances this time. Number 6, Suri. Suri is an absolute Survivor legend. She was incredible in Survivor Fans vs. Favorites. But, you know, in Survivor Heroes vs. Villains, she fell off a lot. And that was because of JT, who is also on this cast. And now, Suri hasn't been known to be the best at challenges, and she has bad blood with JT. So that makes me a little bit nervous about her chances. But gosh, I hope she goes far. because seeing more Suri, that is also what I need in my life. Hopefully she gets on a tribe that wins a lot before the swap and can make it through these first couple votes, and I think if she does that, she's going to go very far. Number 5, JT. JT played one of the best games ever his first time in Survivor Token Chains, but like Suri in Survivor Heroes vs. Villains, he fell off a lot. He played way too hard, gave Russell the idol, and in my opinion, one of the dumbest moves ever in Survivor history. So I think JT needs to turn it down a notch this time. Go back to more Survivor Token Chains, JT. You know, I would actually love to see JT hook up with like Aubrey. I think Aubrey could be his Steven this time, and that would just be incredible. I would love to see that alliance. I love JT, and I hope that he does well this time. Number 4, Ozzy. I know it's a little bit of a hot take to put Ozzy this high on the list, but he's always been one of my personal favorites ever since his first season, so you're gonna have to excuse my love for Ozzy because I know he was a bit of a jerk in Survivor South Pacific. But love him or hate him, you can't argue that he is probably the best that we've ever seen in the competitions, and I just love that about him. You know, competitions, like it or not, is a huge factor in this game, and he is the best at that factor of the game. So being best at a certain portion of Survivor makes you a legend in my book. Number 3, Sandra. Speaking of legends, winning 2 times makes you an absolute legend for Sandra. But after winning 2 times, people still don't consider Sandra the best of all time. Including myself, I don't consider Sandra the best player ever to play, but she needs to prove it to us right here. If Sandra can win this season, I will never argue it again. Sandra is the best Survivor player of all time, no questions asked if she wins this season. But I think she's going to have a very, very hard time. Her and Tony are on the same tribe, and I don't think both of them are making the merge. Both Sandra and Tony have a great chance at going home first, and it's so sad because I love them both. I can't see them working together, and Sandra is worse in the competitions than Tony, so I'm very worried about her chances, but I hope she can get to the end and win that 3rd time because that would just be so poetic. Number 2, Malcolm. You know, I see a lot of people comparing Malcolm to Ozzy, but in my opinion, they couldn't be more different. Yeah, Malcolm's decent at the competitions, but his main strength is his social game. And Ozzy really doesn't have that great of a social game. I think that's really what's going to help Malcolm out. Like he said, he can vote you out and make you thank him for it. And that's not a lie. If I was picking a winner, Malcolm would definitely be in my top 3. I think he has a real shot at this thing. I don't see him going before the merge, and I can't wait to see him play again because he's one of my favorites. And number 1, Team TV, Tony. Or should we call him after this season, King TV. I'm so scared. Like, I've sat here ever since the cast has been announced, just so worried about Tony's chances because everyone is worried about him, and they should be. He played one of the craziest games ever and won. So if I could pick one person to win this season, it would by far be Tony, because let's be real, if Tony wins this season, this is going to be the best season ever. But I really don't know about his chances. I think he could go first, but gosh, if he goes first, I will be the saddest boy on the earth. Sadder than I was when Jeff Varner was evicted, that's for sure, and that's the saddest I've been in a long time over this show. Tony is very good though. I think if anyone can get out of it with that big of a target, he can, and I really, 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 really hope he does, because I am Team TV all the way. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you later.